our body. So this is really funny. I feel like I need to do some splaining. Lucy, you got some splaining to do. Yes, I have a handheld microphone today, and the situation of the webcam is a little bit different than what I'm used to. I got a new standing desk contraption. So I was told by my friends, they were like, well, you can't really call that a standing desk because it's not the actual like it doesn't move up and down. My entire desk doesn't move up and down, but the contraption that sits on top of it does. So therefore, and it's funny because now that I think about it, when I ordered it, it's called a sit stand solution for a desk. But anyway, I recorded it. I see. I'm already thinking I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm talking about podcasts, but I'm not. We're not there yet because this is important. This is important. We need to talk about equipment first. My husband installed the sit stand solution onto our desk this weekend, but we didn't get a chance to install my boom arm. So here I am. I'm coming at you with my Behringer XM 8500. That's what this bad boy is. I mean, I could pretend that it's on a boom arm and I could talk like this, but that's weird. And my arm will get very tired doing that. So if you're joining us live, make sure you tell us in the comments where you're watching from. And I want to know, have you ever tried to stand and record your podcast? Because this is really fun. Okay, so this microphone in particular that I'm using today, I typically use this with my Tascam recorder. And this is like my portable handheld recording device that I'll use if I'm traveling, if I'm doing an interview with another person. I can plug in. I have two of these microphones and I bought it specifically for that purpose. I wanted to be able to take it with me when I travel or if I go to a conference. Little did I know that I would not be going to a live conference. It's been a year almost. In February, it will be a year since I attended a live conference. But anyway, I still have this, and it just so happened to work out perfectly because my Rode Procaster, which is the one I typically have on the boom arm. Do y'all like my mimey motions today? But my Rode Procaster doesn't come with a stand. So, and I never thought to have a stand for it because it's on my boom arm most of the time. And I don't have a way to set it up on my desk. So this is nice. I actually recorded several podcast episodes today, pacing around my desk because this is what I do here. Like, actually, hang on. If we don't break anything, I can show you. If I'm standing up, even though the webcam's a little funky now, it's low, but I like literally was holding it and it's like pacing around, walking back and forth. And it was kind of nice because if I try to do that with the microphone that's on the boom arm, I'd have to move the boom arm all over the place and I would knock everything over. If you don't know this about me, I'm not the most graceful person. I've been called clumsy crystal a time or two. See, I can't even do that right. A time or two in my day. And it's fine. This is why we don't buy nice things. Okay. This is why I don't invest in a lot of things that can easily break. You won't find a lot of glass around our house. But anyway, we are here to talk about podcast ads. So that's what we're here today to talk about. So Melanie, she said, I'm just here to check out the countdown timer. She is Melanie, we need to come up with a name for you. The countdown aficionado, like something very fancy. Because like if you were here at the beginning, then if not, go back and watch the very beginning. There is a countdown timer. She creates these for me and they're fantastic. I think they're awesome. So she's always like, let me check, let me make sure. She'll make little tweaks or changes and send them back to me. And I'm like, it's way better than anything I could ever make. So it's fantastic. Y'all should go check her out because she always has incredible live streaming tips and strategies. Hello from Maryland. Hi, Totally Stories. I love that. So I'm assuming, do you have a podcast about stories? That would make a lot of sense. We're so happy that you're here. We are talking about podcast ads. Now, this is something that gets a lot of people uncomfortable because immediately whenever I start talking about podcast ads, people say to me, like, it's like they have this defense mechanism, like the wall goes up and they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. You're talking about podcast ads, but I don't have enough downloads to even approach a sponsor or to get a brand deal on my show. So, why would we even talk about podcast ads? And I'm like, whoa, 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 hold up. You should be creating your own podcast ads. Oh, did I just confuse you a little bit? And you're like, what are you even talking about now? Because you're talking about creating my own ads. What does this even look like? How does this work? So I want you to go listen to, and actually, yeah, I don't know who this is. I can't see. I know that it's probably someone from our Facebook group. And hello, I'm so happy that you're here, but it won't tell me who this is. So if you click on the link where it says StreamYard, give you access or give StreamYard access to put your name up there, then I'll know. But it says she's the countdown creator critic. LOL. Yeah, she is. She is our own worst critic when it comes to countdown timers because she'll think, oh, it's not fancy enough. And I'm like, this is pretty amazing. And she whips them up like so quickly. So yeah, Mel is the go-to for all countdown timers. I'm working on creating a podcast on stories, My Linda. I don't know what My Linda is. Is that the name of your podcast? I'm working on creating a podcast on stories. So my question, I already have so many questions, but what kind of stories? Are these stories for specific listeners? Are these fiction? Are they nonfiction? Are they stories about certain types of people? Tell us in the comments. We can start a conversation about stories and listeners and how to identify listeners too. Okay. Elder. I was going to say, I bet that's Elder, but I didn't want to say anything. I'm so happy that you're here, Elder, joining us once again, coming and hanging out with us whenever we do these lives. It's so fun. I'm glad that you're here because we are talking about today's podcast episode from the Profit Podcast. So if you want to check it out, hang on, there's too many options on the back end here and I always get confused. Okay. So crystalprofit.com/episode 221. That's where you can go find this podcast episode. You can listen to it right there on the webpage or go listen wherever you listen to podcasts. But actually, I can just share my screen here with you. And that actually might be a little bit more helpful. Hang on. Stand by 1 second, friends. Because I'm going to get this pulled up so we can look at this together. I was going to look at, hang on. Webcam's got to adjust a second. I was going to look at this and then talk to you about it, but why can't we just talk about this together? Why do I have to do this alone, right? Let's share in this. Why is it saying that there's nothing on my screen? It's on the screen. Y'all, technology, it's really fun some days. It's really fun when it doesn't want to cooperate. It's switching all the screens on me. It's like, oh, this screen, that screen. So I'm going to share a screen. There we go. Okay. So this is, like I said, whenever you go to crystalprofit.com/episode 221, this is the episode that we're talking about today. And it's all about podcast ads, how to create these and when to use them. Now, like I said, this has nothing to do with brand deals and sponsorships like corporate sponsors. This is more about you as a podcaster, even if you're just getting started, getting used to the idea of having podcast ads on your show. Because this comes up all the time. I have so many podcasters in my community that will say, I really don't want to put ads on my show. I really don't. I just, my people will think that it's annoying. They don't want that disruption and they don't want it to happen. And my first thought is, well, what's going to happen when all of a sudden you're excited because you got, let's say, a $20,000 check? Oh, wait, I got your ears perked up, right? A $20,000 check from a brand that's like, we want to work with you. We're going to pay $20,000 for a month's worth of ads. So let's say you publish once a week. That's 4 ads. They're going to give you $20,000 for 4 ads on your show. Hang on. Let's make this a little bit bigger here. Would you say, my listeners aren't really going to like that? No, if it's a great fit, like it's a company that you would love to work with, you would figure out how to make it work. You would say, okay, I'm going to put it at the beginning of the show because I know that my ads work best there, or I'm going to put it in the middle of the show because I know that all of my listeners, when I put a call to action in the middle of the show, they usually make it happen. Or I'm going to put it at the end because they actually listen to the end and that's the most powerful for my podcast. You won't know any of that information and be able to reciprocate that. I said reciprocate. That's not the word. What is the word I'm thinking of? Like you wouldn't be able to translate that information to a sponsor if you didn't already do this, if you didn't know how podcast advertising actually works. So this is why this is important. I was recording an episode today and I was telling it's for the daily report. The daily report. Y'all, I can't talk today. Words are hard. Words are hard. Okay. It happens to us all. But the potty report, which is my daily podcast, which is what I was trying to say, I was recording an episode and saying, get used to hearing me talk about podcast ads because I think that you should be creating your own now. So you're training your listeners to hear these ads on your show and you're promoting stuff, you're giving value, you're offering calls to action that can actually help them succeed, save money, save their marriage, be a better parent, like all the things that your podcast helps them with already. Inserting these ads and having these strategic calls to action can help you so much in the long run because it gives you the opportunity to baby step into ads. So whenever you're ready to monetize, when you have those thousands of downloads every single month that advertisers are looking for, you're like, oh, here's this, right? Here's my show. I think it would be fantastic for us to work together. And actually, I've been doing ads on my own since the beginning of my show. And I feel very confident with host read ads and being able to get results because my listeners are already used to hearing ads consistently on the show. So I'm going to step off my soapbox for a second. This is why I'm so passionate about this. So I think podcast ads are super, super important. Oh, wait, hang on. We have some comments here. So I finally got in your live video. Yes, create it simple. We are so happy that you're here. Thanks for joining us. My Linda is my first name. Okay. Now I get it. Now I get it. So you were saying like dash, like this is who this message is from. That helps me so much. Okay. I'm a professional storyteller. I tell stories for all ages. I currently produce alliteration tongue twisters on my YouTube channel called Totally Stories. Okay. Alliteration tongue twisters, that in and of its own is a hard tongue twister for me to say. So I'm so happy that you provide places for people to consume that kind of content. Yes. So happy that you're here, my Linda. And I want to put an emphasis on the accent there. I want to say me Linda or my Linda. You'll have to tell me which one it is because I want to make sure I'm saying your name correctly. But I'm so happy that you're here. Yeah, thanks. I'm super excited. Yes, we're so happy that you're here. So if y'all haven't checked it out already, like I said, go to crystalprofit.com/episode 221 because then you'll see what we're talking about here today. And you can always look at it afterwards. But I wanted to go down here because I give an explanation of dynamic content ads. Now, this is for Buzzsprout users. If you have another hosting platform, there are ones out there that offer this type of service as well, but I don't know how to navigate it with you. I just know Buzzsprout's dynamic content tool and what they offer on their end. And that's what I know. Like, that's how I know to explain this. And that is my experience with dynamic content. But today in this episode, so last week's episode, it would have been episode 220. I talked about the new Buzzsprout dynamic content. So if after you listen to today's episode or you want to go back and listen to this one and you're on this webpage, you can just simply click here and it will take you to the episode where we talked about dynamic content and what it is. But today, I wanted to dive deeper into the 3 types of ads that you need to know about because there's pre-roll, mid-roll, and post-roll. And there is another podcast episode that I did last year, and it was with Anthony Savelli. I was trying to think of the name. If it's podcast sponsorship, no, podcast advertising. How does it work? Actually, I linked to it on here somewhere. Hang on. I know we linked to it. It's in here somewhere. I'm probably thinking of last week's episode. Here it is. Yeah. So Anthony Savelli, it was that podcast episode. He's from Podcast Ad Reps. And that was when we first really started talking about the power of the pre-roll, the mid-roll, and the post-roll podcast ads. Now, not much has really changed as far as I don't want to say accessibility because we've always been able to do this ourselves. If we've wanted to include a pre-roll ad, you can do that. If you want to do a mid-roll ad, you can do that. If you want to do a post-roll ad, you could do this yourself. But now with the dynamic content tool that Buzzsprout offers, this is where it gets really fun. So first, let's talk about the pre-roll and what it is. So the pre-roll is anything that happens before your main podcast episode begins. And I go into a lot more detail in the episode about why you would use it, why it's important. And I really believe that the pre-roll ads is where you should put the most time sensitive thing or the most important thing that you want to share with your audience. So, for example, I have a masterclass coming up in February. End of January, beginning of February, you're going to start hearing this. If you listen to my podcast, it's going to be talking about this masterclass. Well, this is a big lead generator for my business. And it's important because it helps get new people into my world. It helps get them on my email list where they're learning how they best want to connect with me and what works best for them. Maybe they love podcasts. They want to connect with me there. Maybe they want to watch YouTube videos and they can connect with me there. So it kind of gets them into the beginning stages of working with me, learning from me, or just discovering new ideas. And maybe they want to join our community. This is really important. And so I will put that as a pre-roll ad at the beginning of all of my podcast episodes. Now, going back to the dynamic content that Buzzsprout offers, they now allow you to upload a piece of audio. So, audio clip. I don't know why I say a piece of audio because it's not like you're taking like a snippet of a snippet and putting it there. You can take an audio clip and add it to the beginning of your episode. But what's even better and what's so cool about this feature, you can click a button and it will add it to your entire backlog. Oop, I hit the mic and it probably made a noise. My bad. So we're talking about episode 221 today. That means there are 220, actually more with bonus episodes. There are so many episodes that I can click a button and that same ad, my ad for my new masterclass, will be added to all of my old episodes. So if someone's just finding me, like maybe you're watching this here today, you don't know who I am. Hi, I'm Crystal. I teach entrepreneurs how to start, launch, and market their podcast. And if you're brand new to me and I said, hey, go check out the Profit Podcast, this is my podcast. It comes out every week and I offer tips and strategies and all things podcasting. Well, if someone were to go listen to the show and say, oh man, this was great, I want to go back and look at episode 115 because I want to know how to grow an email list with my podcast. They could go listen to episode 115, which I released last year in January, and that same ad would be there. And they could listen to episode 46 and episode 200, and this ad would be there. So, from a strategic standpoint, the dynamic content and being able to add ads to all of your backlog is important because it allows you to share real-time messages with your current and even future audience. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions about that? So if I were to add an ad to just today's episode about my masterclass, then I would just have to hope that my audience is listening to today's episode and they're not like, oh, I'm still trying to catch up on episodes from over the holidays. So I'm like 10 episodes back. They wouldn't hear, like if there was like a time sensitive thing, you're launching a book, right? And you want people to pre-order your book on this certain day and they are only listening to 10 episodes back. They won't get to that until after your launch has happened. Then you've missed a great opportunity to reach them. So this is what I love about the combination of the different types of ads and the dynamic content. Now, as we talk about mid-roll ads, these are inserted in the middle of a podcast episode. There is not a feature within Buzzsprout right now. Right now, okay? I'm told that this is like, I put on here wishful thinking that it's going to happen. I don't know when, but that is not a capable feature right now as of me recording this. You can only do pre-roll and post-roll. And to be honest, the mid-roll ads are some of the hardest ones to do because you got to think about timing. It really is about timing. You have to think of where my listeners at in this journey. Where have they gotten? I don't want to interrupt them right in the middle of a thought. Like you want to have a completed thought before you start your ad. You want to have, like, if you're going back and forth, I do a lot of solo episodes. So I'm thinking of, I did an ad today. It was a mid-roll ad to join our free Facebook group. And I put it in there right at the end of a thought and before I started the next part, like the next segment of the episode. And I think that that's important. And that's not something that everybody can do just like that if they're just getting started. I think that's a way more advanced skill that a podcaster who's just launching, they're like, what are you even talking about? Don't think about these things. If you're brand new, if you're just trying to get content ideas and pick out your title and get the thing launched, don't listen to that. You don't need any of that. Don't listen mid-roll. Like, put that in the back. Put it in the back of your head. We'll revisit that when you're ready. But I think it's important just to know that that is an option out there. So the last thing we'll talk about, and then I'm going to take some questions, is post-roll ads. Now, I have heard, and I was recently on Buzzsprout's podcast, Buzzcast. So you can go to, I guess it's buzzcast.buzzsprout.com. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. You can go listen to the latest interview that I did with one of the co-founders of the company, their head of marketing and their head of content. We talked about the different ways to use pre-roll, mid-roll, and post-roll. And we had a conversation that the post-roll ads just aren't as effective as maybe the pre-roll and the mid-roll. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't use them. I actually kind of chimed in the conversation and said, well, I think the post-roll ads is the perfect way to get started for someone who maybe hasn't had any calls to action since they started their podcast, right? Maybe you've never asked people to subscribe to your show, right? This actually happened to me when I first started a long time ago. I don't know if I was nervous. I don't know if I just didn't know what I was doing. I don't know. There was probably a combination of a lot of things, but I wasn't continuously asking people to subscribe to my show. I thought I was asking too much of them. If I said, will you please subscribe to my show? And then it sounded like, I was being desperate. It was a lot of things. Okay. I need to go to podcast therapy because I was nervous to make the ask to tell people to subscribe to my show because I wasn't fully confident in myself as a podcaster and the content that I was producing because I was still getting it figured out. So if you haven't uploaded any calls to action within your show, I say upload it. If you haven't recorded calls to action in your show that tell people to subscribe or go join you on social media somewhere, if you have a free Facebook group or Instagram, then I suggest adding that to the post roll. This is after your main body of podcast content is done, it's over, and then you say, oh, by the way, if you haven't subscribed to our show yet, make sure you do that wherever you're listening to this podcast. You can also leave a rating and a review where you're listening to the show, and that helps us push this content out in front of more people. Very simple, that's it. And then you could say, you could take a screenshot of this and tag me on social media. I'm at Crystal Profit TX across all platforms, whatever this looks like for you. But post-roll ads are the easiest place to get started. So, okay, that's what I have to say about creating podcast ads. If y'all have any other questions, let me know. Put them in the comments. I am going to stick around for a little bit longer to answer your questions, but I just want to keep the conversation going about podcast ads because, like I said, even if you don't have sponsorships, even if you don't have any brand deals, you don't have people banging down your door right now to throw money at you to advertise on your podcast, it doesn't mean it's never going to happen. And I recommend you at least knowing how the process works before you have a big name sponsor, right? Because it would make me really nervous if I launched my podcast and all of a sudden somebody was like, hey, I'll throw $20 or $20. That's a really please don't offer or accept $20 for a podcast. You need more than that. You're worth more than that, okay? But if somebody said, "Hey, we're going to give you $20,000 to, create this podcast ad. We want to sponsor you." Well, you want to do a good job, right? Because then they'll come back and they'll say, "Man, that worked. That incredible. Now we want to throw $50,000 at you to advertise because this worked so well last time." You want to perform well for advertising sponsors because that's what keeps them coming back. So I want you to feel comfortable doing this well before you have to do this for someone else's business. I want you to feel comfortable doing this for you. And if you don't have a business, you're like, "I'm just doing this for my hobby. I'm just doing this on the side." Well, I would urge you to reconsider how you can look at your podcast like a business, because you show up in a different way than if you are just trying to, I'm just doing this for the fun of it. So that's my take on it. Yeah. So my Linda is the correct pronunciation, not Melinda. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for verifying that. Now I know it's my Linda from Totally Stories. Y'all go check her out for all her tongue twisters. I'm going to have to go see what that's all about. Okay, so create it simple has a question about using the Buzzsprout feature. What if you already included a pre-roll ad in the episode? If you add the pre-roll, how would that transition? Because it would be two back to back. Okay, so if you already have, so my question is it the exact same ad? Is it the exact same? Like maybe you were doing this on your own manually before they added the feature. And so now you're like, "Oh, wait, hang on. I already have that ad in there because I wanted to say there's a feature for you to exclude certain episodes." So if that is the case, so tell me in the comments if that is the case, create it simple, because that would be my recommendation. If you've done this in the past, you've had your calls to action or you've had something similar in there, but now you're uploading it and you're like, "Oh, wait, I don't want that on there." I'm actually going to go into one of my episodes where I have this applied and see. So I'm going into dynamic content. That's from all existing episodes. You know what? This is a question I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask this question. So if you're not already a part of Buzzsprout's free Facebook group, that is the perfect place to go ask this question. I'm going to hop over there in a little bit and ask this as well. Because I think that that's something, if you can just take it off that pre-roll. Okay, wait, hang on. I see you're updating. No, not the same ad. But if there's a place to exclude it, I would love to know. Yeah, because I'm hopping into the dynamic content. So for any Buzzsprout users, you can go to episodes. That's the tab that you would go to. And then underneath that is dynamic content. Okay, so you're saying you don't have Facebook. So I will ask in the group and see kind of what that looks like. But I'm going to go into one specific episode and I don't see a place for you to just delete the dynamic content off of here. So here, I'm going to show you all this real fast. I'm going to share my screen. So this is what it looks like. This is today's podcast episode in Buzzsprout. So it has the podcast ads. It has all these other things on the side that you may or may not be familiar with if you've ever used Buzzsprout. But you see how I have magic mastering applied here and I have my dynamic content. That's how you can tell which episodes it's been applied to. But you're right. I don't see a particular place in here to allow me to take it off, at least not at first glance. So I'm going to go in and click edit. Yeah, I don't see a place to take off dynamic content on here. So that's a good question. Since you don't have Facebook, I don't really know how. I'm going to give you an update. Maybe I'll come back. You'll have to come back for my next live and I'll be watching for you to see what it is. But this is something that I'm going to ask because that's a fantastic question. I don't know. I don't have the answer for you, but it's one I'm going to figure out because that is a really good question. So my recommendation would be to not manually upload the ad. Yeah, you're saying it's not the same ad, but if there was a place to exclude it, I would love to know. I don't know, because you don't want to duplicate it, right? So yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see on that. Yeah, okay. So I will try to make it back, but I always watch the replay. Okay. So when I find the answer to this question, because I'm going to make it my life's mission to find the answer to this question today, I will let you know. But I would also recommend, if since you use Buzzsprout, to go in and email support. I don't always remember if it's support at buzzsprout.com. Let me see. Yeah, so there's some FAQs and help guides. I don't know if that's one that they have on there, but I would go into the help section of your account and see if they have any other resources in there. But yeah, we'll try to get an answer to you as quickly as possible. So, Elder has a question. Are there template scripts to help with the wording? This is actually a great idea. I do not have any as of right now, but that is a fantastic idea for creating ads because these are really just come to me like I'm sitting here like the templates are in my head. Come on, you can't read my mind, but it just comes from listening to so many other podcasts. So I would recommend listening to other podcasts that are in your industry, outside of your industry. They're kind of totally off the wall, maybe not related whatsoever to what you talk about, and see how they deliver their ads. Like it's going to be a mixture of probably people that do their own ads. And then every once in a while, I don't hear them very often, but I will hear ads that are not read by the host. They're actually read by somebody else. And I'm not a fan of those. I think that it's jarring to hear one person's voice for a long time. And then all of a sudden it's like someone else's voice. And you're like, whoa, who's this person? I wasn't listening for this person to be talking to me. So I definitely recommend when you do your own ads, you do them yourself, unless you have a co-host. Maybe you could switch back and forth between, hey, I'm going to read this ad, you can read that ad, or we can read them together. But that's a fantastic idea about scripts. So I'm going to write that down because I got a feeling there's going to be a podcast episode coming up about that. And I will give you a big shout out, Elder, for being the person that has come up with this, because at the end of the day, it's just a matter of what you think will resonate best with your audience, right? So, and it doesn't have to be a big ask, right? It could just be make sure you subscribe to the show and leave us a review. Join us in our free Facebook group. Follow us on Instagram, and I don't think that it should be a lot of things in one ad. Like every segment that you do, every episode should really just have 1 to 2 calls to action. Above that, people get confused because they're like, wait, she said in this part that I need to go check out the Facebook group. But then she said over here, I need to go follow her on Instagram. But she said over here to go check out this video on YouTube. Like, so what is it? What is it that you want me to do? And then people don't take action. So what I typically do, that's always my number one call to action in my regular episodes, is I will tell people to go to the show notes, right? So at crystalprofit.com/episode 221. That's the thing that I always tell people. And then from there, I can add the important stuff. If I want them, like the other calls to action I want them to do, if I want them to try this affiliate program out that I'm working with, or I want them to sign up for my email newsletter, whatever the other things on top of what I want them to do, but I want them to go to my show notes. That's first and foremost. And then the second thing, right? Your ad, if you're adding something at the beginning or at the end, you want it to be something that is important to you, something that aligns with your goals, not just, well, I don't really know what to say, so I don't know, I'm just going to add something out there. You need to have something on the back end of why you're doing it. Otherwise, I don't even think it's worth it. So again, Facebook groups, following you on social media, joining your email list if you have a free resource, or if you have a product or a service that you want people to check out. And it could be as simple as, I hear this a lot on even podcasts that are really big and they sponsor their own content. They can say, before we get into today's episode, I wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by my free masterclass, 4 Insider Secrets to an Award-Winning Show. This is actually a masterclass that I have coming up soon. Obviously, I haven't worked out the ad for it, but you kind of get the idea. And then I would go along and say, Here's why you need to sign up for it. Here's how you can benefit from it. And here is the URL for you to sign up. And then I would give them a URL and go on about my way and then say, okay, now let's get into today's episode. So just off the top of my head, those are some of the ideas that I have, but I'll be working on some scripts for sure. For sure. If anybody else has any other questions, put them in the comments. I'm going to be here for about 5 more minutes. So let me know how I can help you with your podcast ads, if you have any other questions. But today's episode, again, you can go to crystalprofit.com/episode 221 to check out pre-roll, mid-roll, and post-roll ads and create it simple. I'm going to find this answer for you. So I will let you know. And I don't know that I can't send you a direct message on YouTube, can I? YouTube doesn't have DMs. I'm not in the know enough to know about messaging other channels on YouTube. Now that I think about it, I'm like, I don't know how to do that. But create it simple. If you have an Instagram, I was going to say I could put it in my stories later today when I find it. I don't know. If you're on Instagram, send me a DM. And then say, hey, I asked you this question today. Here's my question. You said you were going to find an answer for me. Where's my answer? You don't have to be that direct. I mean, you can if you want because I told you to, but yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So my Linda says, thanks for the information today. I need to start doing that. Yeah. I think it's so important that us as podcasters really feel super comfortable with those calls to action and saying, hey, this is what you should do. This is your call to action. This is why you should do it. And this is where you can find it, right? So what they should do or what it is that you're telling them about, why they should do it, and where they can do it, right? So this is my free masterclass. This is why it can help you with your podcast. And here's the URL to find it. Just keep it super simple. It doesn't have to be very long. Like some of my pre-roll ads have been 45 seconds. I recorded a mid-roll ad today that was about 1.5 minutes. Honestly, it's probably too long. I could probably cut it down, but I'm just now like starting to experiment with them. But I think that the shorter, more concise, straightforward, here's what you need to do, here's why you need to do it, and here's where you can do it is just so like boom, boom, boom. And they're going to hear it over and over again. So if you try an ad and you're like, did it work? I don't know. I mean, I didn't get like an influx of things. I say that you put in parameters where you can measure the success of what you've asked them to do. So for example, on my Facebook group, I will ask people, where did you hear about this group? People will tell me the podcast. People will tell me on YouTube. People will tell me from my email list. So I like to be able to see where people are coming from. And actually, YouTube is one of those places where people are starting to find out about my Facebook group. So I can kind of measure that and say, hey, I remember talking about that in my last Facebook videos, my last YouTube videos, and it's working. So I need to keep doing that. It's a way for me to measure results. So we can talk about that on another day, how to set up your ads for success. But this was so much fun. And I think we should keep the conversation going. Yes. So Create It Simple says, I do have Instagram and I will. Yes. Please reach out to me. I'm actually going to hop off now, go ask this question and hopefully get back to you. But y'all have a fantastic day. It's Taco Tuesday, my favorite day of the week. And I will talk to you again next week. I think that we're going to have a different time next week. We've been doing 1 p.m. Central. And I found out I have a podcast interview that was rescheduled to 1 p.m. Central next week. So we may do an earlier time. So just be on the lookout. I always try to schedule these the day before so you know and you're notified. But everybody have a great day. Remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Bye, guys.